what up? This is how I look now. Don't worry about it. Uh, you ever feel like the mountains are calling you? You ever feel like the mountains are calling you? Hey, yo, who's that? Hey, yo, who's that? Oh, it's the mountains. It's the mountains. They're calling me. Uh, I feel like I keep going on about this, but then I remember I only go on about this in my own head. I haven't actually talked about it that much on YouTube. Um, I read this text, ancient Japanese text written in 1212 by uh, Kamo no Chome, a monk, and he was basically a court poet in Japan, medieval Japan, and then one day he was like, "Fuck this!" When he was like around 50, he became a Buddhist monk. He moved out into the mountains, and in the mountains he built his own hut, and he kept like moving deeper and deeper into the mountains, and every time he moved, the hut he built would be a little more minimal, a little smaller, until he ended up in a 10 foot by 10 foot hut, which he built himself in the mountains, and pretty much all he had was like a fountain outside, like one of those bamboo fountains that goes when it, one of them. He had one of them. He had a little porch for sitting and reading, and he had some Buddhist sutras, and he had a little bed made of like hay, um, and a kettle for making tea, I think, and like a fire basically for making tea and food outside the hut, and he had a koto and a biwa, which are two Japanese instruments, which he would make music on, and that was it. Like that was just his life in this 10 foot by 10 foot hut in the mountains, and he claims in this book that he basically just every day would get up and he would meet up, not every day, but sometimes he would meet up with the son of a nearby farmer. Um, at this point he's like 60 and this kid's probably like 10. He doesn't say exactly how old he is, but it implied that the kid's pretty young, and they would go off and they would go into the forests and they would forage for nuts and leaves, and that's what he would eat, and he'd do that for a few hours, and then he'd walk back to his hut and he would just chill out and recite Buddhist sutras, meditate, and play the biwa and compose songs and practice songs and stuff like that. And that was just his life. And he wrote this text about it called Hojoki, where he uses this as like a metaphor, where he sort of says like, um, uh, it's really good. You should just read it. Just read Hojoki. It's short. It's really short. You can read it in like an hour or two. Like it's really short and it's really good. And it's one of my favorite texts about hermitage. There's a Penguin Classics edition which comes with Hojoki and another text by another Japanese monk called Essays in Idleness, which is also really good, but not as good as Hojoki. Rant aside, you ever feel like, hey yo, who's that? Oh, it's the fucking mountains. I've been thinking about moving to the mountains. Remember how I said, yeah, I've been thinking about moving to the mountains. This is a mentally healthy person. Thinking of moving to the mountains. But go back one step. Remember when I was like, yeah, he moved to the hut and he kept moving deeper and deeper into the mountains, and every time he would move, the hut would become more smaller and more minimal. Yeah, that isn't that kind of like people and Linux distros? Like you start off on like Ubuntu or fucking Mint or Pop OS or something, and then you're like, okay, that was cool. Now Debian. Okay, now I'm gonna go for more minimal software. Let's go with Arch or Artix. Oh, now go with Void. You know what? Fuck it. I'll just build LFS from Linux from scratch. Like people, like it's the same thing. Anyway, that was just an interesting note. Also, this is one of the problems with me moving to the mountains that I was thinking about. I'm kind of suspect of his whole thing about, yeah, I just picked up leaves, new like shoots from the ground and nuts from the forest, and that was enough for me to live, even though I was walking crazy amounts every day, and I'm like a 50-year-old man. Like that's sus. I don't know if that's possible. And the reason that I'm particularly sus of it is because the text isn't literal. Like he says stuff that is allegorical and not literal multiple times, like historically inaccurate but not literal. So, that's part of the, like, historically inaccurate but meant to impart something about Buddhist scripture, like Buddhist beliefs on you about Mujo, the, like, transience. Um, uh, but another thing that makes me sus of it is that we know where he lived. We know where his hut was. And it was like a 20-minute walk from a large town. Like, it wasn't actually that deep in the mountains. He just lies in the book where he's like, yeah, I moved like way away from civilization and the only person near me was this farmer and his son. Yeah, that bullshit. He was rich. I mean, he was a court poet. He had lots of money. Like, he was a high-class person before he became a monk. So he had lots of money. But even if he didn't, like, he was very close to a nearby town. I would think it very likely that he regularly went into the town and bought some fucking rice for himself. But he thinks that's too non-Buddhist to talk about. I highly doubt he'd survived on just leaves and nuts from the nearby forest for like 20 years. You would just die. You can't forage that much for yourself. And like, he's not eating like tubers or like I don't know, pig nut or something, like the stuff that has lots of calories in it. He literally says like new leaves, fresh baby leaves from plants that are like tender, and nuts. That is not enough calories for an adult human male. Like, you just can't, you physically can't survive on just that. As far as I'm aware, maybe he knows something I don't, but particularly because he was walking a lot, I don't know. That seems kind of sus to me. I suspect he went down and got some rice from time to time. So yeah, the whole food thing is a bit of a problem living in the mountains. Um, Fuck, this is my mountains. This is my mountain dwelling, and I just looked this up because I forgot how to pronounce it, and then I started talking about stuff, and now I've forgotten how to pronounce it. I wrote this phrase on my wall. Hold on. Can you see it? Can you see it over here? Come on. Pretty difficult to maneuver the camera. Can you see it? Where is it? Over here? This? Yeah. Japanese phrase, which I've just forgotten how to say, even though I just looked it up because I know what it means, but I forgot how to say it in Japanese. So now I'm gonna do that again. embarrassing moments caught on camera. Top 10 embarrassing no thank you moments caught on camera. Shichu no sankyo. That's what it says. Shichu no sankyo. Can't read kanji. Okay. I knew that said no. I knew that said no. Anyway, Shichu no sankyo. That's on my wall because this, in my humble attempt. This is my humble attempt to create Shichu no Sankyo, which means a mountain hermitage in the city, which is a term used to describe the huts that they use for tea ceremonies, tea huts. Because the tea ceremony was invented, you might think the tea ceremony was invented somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, but it was invented in Osaka, in the middle of Osaka, like a bustling city, by a guy who was like a noble, and he was like, yo, fuck this, like, this is a bit much, like, I need a break, but I don't want to have to go a million miles away into the countryside every time I need a break, so I'm just going to make a break here. I'm going to make a mountain hermitage in the city. That wasn't really why the tea ceremony was invented, but it's, you know what I mean. The tea huts should give off the impression of being a mountain hermitage, even though they really exist in the middle of a city, even if they do, right? That's the point. The Japanese tea ceremony is so cool. It includes my single favorite piece of I guess design. I'm not sure what to call it, which is that like everything in the Japanese tea ceremony as it was ratified by that guy who I've forgotten the name of, is meant to serve to say a philosophical thing, because it's really a Buddhist ritual that is meant to sort of impart values onto you. And one of my favorite pieces of design in the whole history of humanity and I'm sure he wasn't the first person to think of this in the whole world, but I still think it's sick, is the door on a tea hut has to be really small, because that way, no matter what your status is, when you enter the tea ceremony, you have to bow to go in, because everyone in the tea ceremony is considered equal. Is that not fucking so cool? I love that. I just love that little fact about tea ceremonies. Hey yo, who's this? Hey, who this be? Hey yo, who this be? Who this be? Hello, who this be? Oh, it's the mountains. They're calling me. They're calling me yet again. If I move to the mountains, here what I would bring with me. Not none of this shit. I'll bring my ThinkPad and headphones. I might buy a new pair of headphones if I'm moving to the mountains, because those are a bit fucked. I'd bring my ThinkPad. I would bring this water bottle. That's always useful. And my bass guitar to play bass guitar. And that's most of what I need. Even Kamon Ochome brought his biwa with him. I can bring my bass guitar with me. That would be fucking sick. And, probably some other stuff, but not too much stuff. As little stuff as possible. That's kind of the point. It's possible that if I lived in the mountains, I would have to have, satellite internet. Because they don't do much internet out there. You can get electricity about anywhere these days, by a generator or whatever. I'm not ready to live without electricity just yet. Maybe after 50 years of living in the mountains, I'll decide electricity is bloat and get rid of it. But for now, I'm not ready to live without electricity for the foreseeable future. And but I may have to live with satellite internet, which is, I'm not sure how slow it is, but it's very, very slow. I know that. Fortunately, there's a whole movement of people who are creating pretty nice content, pretty nice internet things, which are made to be text only and incredibly small in size, which is very useful for old hardware and slow internet connections. They call it the small internet. And then, just like now I'm getting into Gemini, and if you want to hear more about me talking about what Gemini is, what the fuck the Gemini protocol is, wait like a week and then check Dotesmite's channel, because something's going up on Dotesmite's channel about that. Perfect. Yes, in tune. I'm all in tune. Nice. Good. Hello? Hey, yo, it's the mountains. What up? Yeah, bitch. When I say moving to the mountains, the UK, not known particularly as a mountainous country. No, thank you. Are you being a weeaboo? Are you saying you want to move to Japan? No, I'm not saying I want to move to Japan. Okay, I'm not saying. I mean, I do want to move to Japan, but if I moved to Japan, I wouldn't want to live in the mountains. I would want to live in fucking Osaka or something, or Tokyo, or something. Like a city, because that's the cool part of Japan. I mean, the mountains are also a cool part of Japan. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm talking about in the UK. I do a runner. I go to the Lake District. They call it the Lake District because it's a district with loads of lakes. Very original name. There's lots of mountains there. Lots of people go there to go hiking. I've never been there. I really want to go because it's lots of natural beauty. A lot of these Buddhist monk Japanese things, they spend a lot of time, like a running theme throughout all of these. They're like a reclusive literature, I believe the genre is called. There's like 3 of them. I don't know why they call it a whole genre for literally 3 texts. There's one which is Hojoki, Essays in Idleness, and then a collection of poetry by some other guy that I haven't actually read yet. Because Japanese poetry doesn't translate very well into English, in my experience. Although I think Hojoki was written as verse, it was written as basically a long connected poem. I don't know though. I need to do more research. Anyway, if I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. You know what I'm supposed to be? I'm supposed to be a fucking court poet like my man. I'm supposed to be a court poet like my man, not living here. supposed to be a court poet like my man. Give me some fucking green tea, boy. Give me some green tea. That's what I'm supposed to be. Green tea. I need to get me some green tea. What was I talking about? Living in the mountains? Lake District. Cool place. Cool place. Is this recording? Yeah. Why would you want to live in the mountains? Why would you want to live in the mountains? No, thank you. Don't have all your amenities. Don't have all your amenities. You gotta have your amenities. Come on now. Where's your amenities in the mountains? Where's your fucking amenities? Come on. Didn't think of that, did you? Didn't think of that, did you? I thought of that, didn't I? That's the point. Kind of. Really, the problem with the city, twofold. There's twofold problems with living in the city. The first fold problem can be viewed out this window when it's not too bright, which is that it's too fucking loud. It's too fucking loud. I'm sure you're aware by now, if you keep up with this channel, that for the past, 8 months, there's been very loud building work next door every day at 8 a.m. Now, I don't like waking up at 8 a.m., but I don't have a choice in the matter no more. None of that if you live in the mountains. Apparently they're going to be done soon, but they've been saying that for a long time, so I'm sus of that. That is suspicious behaviour. It doesn't look like it's going to be I can see parts of what they're doing. They've covered it up to hide it from me. They've covered it up to hide it from me because they're targeting me with the noise. That's why they're doing it. It's because they want to fuck with me. So I can't actually tell what they're doing. But the bits that I can see, it don't look done. It don't look that close to done. I think it's going to take a bit longer than that. Anyway, pieces of shit bastards. I mean, whatever. None of that. No loud noises and no abundance of humans, which is a big problem in my life. An abundance of humans. You know, humans are fine when it's voluntary. You know those ANCAPs, they're always about voluntary shit. They're always about, everything should be voluntary, voluntary transactions, voluntary interactions, sort of freedom of association. Freedom of association, generally regarded to be a fairly important human right. You don't have freedom of association if you live in the city, because every time you go to the shop, you got to associate with everyone you walk past, in a subtle way, but in a true way. And most people are like, that's not a big deal. I think that's a big deal. So fuck you. None of that in the mountains. Just trees and grass and shit. Maybe some deer. I don't know. Do deer go in mountains? I don't think they go in mountains. None of that. So no loud noise. I could just chill. Be quiet. I could play my bass in peace. Bass. That's bass. Play my bass in peace. Bass. Peace. Bass. Peace. Bass. Peace. Play my bass in peace. Bass in peace. You know what I'm saying. So there's that, that's a nice thing. But also, the air is thick. The air is thick out here, in here, everywhere. It's full of pollution. Full of pollution destroying my brain cells and lowering my IQ by an average of 4 points. I think. 7 points? 4 points? I don't remember. Pollution not good for you. Pollution is not good for you. And regardless of whether it's good for you, you get used to it, but you can still feel it. And especially when you go to the countryside and you taste real air, you're like, oh, that's what air tastes like. Oh, I guess they've been depriving me of this my whole life. I guess I'm not even allowed to have air anymore. Yeah, sick, bro. No, none of that shit in the mountains. You got air for days. You got fucking air for days. They used to, in multiple places around the world, in Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, I don't know about North America, there have been cultures. There have been cultures, and that's the fact. There have been cultures, right? And lots of them have this common theme that if you're sick, they used to build hospitals out in the countryside because of a sort of intuitive understanding that if you're sick, you should go somewhere where there's clean air and it will heal you. And, outside of the city. And modern science says no. Hospitals have to be big prisons built in the middle of the city, surrounded by loud noises and constant beeping, staffed with prison guards. I say it's bullshit. I say if you want to heal, there must be something like why would lots of cultures that are disconnected and disparate have come to the same conclusion about clean air healing illnesses and being good for you, if there weren't some sort of stake in it. I feel like those hospitals have ulterior motives and interior motives as well. Like, more suspect things going on. So yeah, clean air, I like that. Now here's why this is a pipe dream. First of all, I have no way to actually get there. I don't know how to drive, and you have to do a lot of walking. I'm not a big fan of a lot of walking, not only because I'm lazy, but also because I have a deformity. My feet don't have proper arches, so I can't walk for long distances. Means I can never get conscripted into the army. Fun fact, because I can't march for long distances. So if there's a world war and they come to me and be like, yo, you gotta join the army, I can be like, medical document, bitch, I got flat ass feet, can't do shit about that, I'm staying here. So that's a bit of a problem. Yeah. Another thing, I don't know, there's a lot of problems. This is a real pipe dream. But those mountains, they don't stop calling me. They don't stop. I can say all these problems with it, and they may be completely true, and it may make my life objectively worse. But every so often, oh hey, who's that? Who could this possibly be? It's the fucking mountains, yeah, again. They're calling me once again. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do about this? I'm gonna take a trip. Maybe I'm gonna take a solo trip to the Lake District to just walk around the mountains. Because before I was like, if I'm gonna go to the Lake District, I should go with a friend, right? But maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just go by myself. Like, that might be kind of flames. Just go on walks. Just go on a hike by myself. Maybe I should just do it. I could just do it. I could just book a train ticket, go there. I mean, the problem is, right, these things take a long time, and you probably have to stay overnight. I might just camp. Just bring a tent with me. I'm not a particularly experienced camper. I'm not a particularly experienced camper, so it might be a little tricky, but it can't be that hard, right? Climb a couple mountains, be like, yeah, natural beauty. Did I mention this? That, like, in a lot of these ancient texts, there's a common theme, which is that these Buddhist recluses, they're like, I know I'm supposed to be all Buddhist and shit, and like not attached to shit, but like, the moon do be kind of beautiful. Like, I know I'm supposed to not be attached to the material world, but like, those cherry blossoms are something else, bro. Like, there's a common theme that they're like kind of struggling to reconcile their knowledge that attachment is a cause of suffering and attachment to the physical world, but also they can't help but be amazed by natural beauty. I don't think I have none of that, so I need to get me some of that. This is my natural beauty right here. This is my natural fucking beauty right here. It's a real beauty. It's a real fucking beauty. This is. And I will leave this video with a quote, the opening lines of Hojoki. Kamo no Chome Hojoki 12:12. I just need to actually scroll to it in my PDF. Okay. On flows the river ceaselessly, nor does its water ever stay the same. The bubbles that float upon its pools now disappear, now form anew, but never endure long. And so it is with the people of this world and with their dwellings. Gang.